All right, let's be real with this Wonder Woman game, guys. I think for the most part, everybody was blowing smoke about this game. They went ahead and they unveiled it at this Game Awards. I don't know why so early. Perhaps it was more of a let's go ahead and feel the fan reception for this game. Another thing too is what was Wonder Woman's marketability in, say, the audience testing compared to other superheroes like Batman, compared to other superheroes like The Flash, compared to one of the most requested superhero like Superman. I remember when I first kicked off this channel, I used to make videos about theories and how to make, these games work and so on and so forth. And I made a Superman video where I said, this is how you make a Superman game. I took the video down. Somebody in the comment section said something to me. It was a very snide remark. I mean, it kind of almost burned, but again, out of being, raised in the jungle and all that, I had to go and say, well, I mean, there's a fair point here. I said, I actually took that video down because I don't want to give anybody a good idea for free and then they don't appreciate it. And this person said to me, who do you think you are that a big company like Warner Brothers would want to take your idea? I said, well, seems like a fair point. But again, something really weird about understanding the way Warner Brothers ran its gaming division, or at least the decision that had been made, that I said to myself, it was worth taking that video down. I really laid out what I thought was a feasible way to make a solid Superman game. And I was not going to say too much about how the game would relate to maybe other games in the industry, but it would literally copy some of the best practices that were out there. It will put Superman in the best light. It will cite Superman stories that are very, very, in a sense, dear to Superman fans. And they would all recognize it immediately they start playing it, giving the game the popularity that it needed. But I said, you know what? These folk that are running this thing, for the most part, many of them don't even know what they're even handling. And that's just the reality. This was given into the custodialship of people who had no idea. Do you hear what I'm saying? People who had no idea what the heck they were doing. And it's crazy to make this kind of claim as, a YouTuber. Basically, so what you're saying is, and this is, let me be real with y'all, man. This is me basically being an armchair exec. I'm playing armchair exec right now and saying that these folk had no freaking clue what they were doing. But and one thing about me is I really enjoy bringing receipts to the table. So when I make a claim, I just don't want to throw it out there. I want you to see for yourself what I'm saying. January 19th, 2022, 3 years ago, Jason Kilar, who at the time was in charge of, I think, a lot of Warner Media's arm, said in a tweet, update/review today with the team building the Wonder Woman game here in Seattle. I think fans are going to love this game. So many good decisions being made. The tweet's still here, guys. Since then, Jason Kilar has left this position. If you notice, in his bio, he's the former Warner Media CEO. When he held this role, he was in charge of some of the initiatives within this company, one of them being CNN Plus. Do y'all remember that CNN tried to set up a subscription service that basically got nuked from orbit within 2 weeks and no one subscribed? I remember quizzing, some teenagers about this stuff, saying, hey, in your mind, which would you rather have taken, a new video game about a superhero or CNN Plus? And one of them said, who even watches CNN? The generation of people are changing. Coming up, I watched CNN with my dad, Larry King. I don't know if many of you remember that. I was, still a young boy at the time. He had been on TV for a while. So if you say to me that somebody will start up a service for people to watch more CNN, I could probably see a little bit of reason with you. But if you're going to market a video game and decide that you're going to blow $300 million reportedly or so for this service, then you ought to be certain that someone's at least going to subscribe and watch it. But the opposite was the case. After 1 month and $300 million, CNN Plus shutters, as reported by Women's Wear Daily. I just pulled it up from Google, by the way. I just Googled the CNN Plus because I remember it was $300 million. If you want, you can read the New York Times article version of it. Everybody was talking about this stuff, bro. That they went ahead and blew $300 million for CNN Plus. Do you know how many superhero video games could have been commissioned with this money? But then when they had the opportunity to commission a video game, they went for Wonder Woman. Okay, people said, okay. The reception was a little tepid because there were other superheroes that, if anybody had been paying even a shred of attention to what was going on the spaces where the DC heroes were being discussed, she was not on the list. There were others that came up way ahead of her in terms of getting a game. But people were like, okay, we can see how it goes. We can see what happens. We can kind of, envision perhaps there might be something in here for us, right? No. They decided that they were going to go that route. And so when you think about some of these kinds of decisions, you got to tell me, you can't tell me that playing armchair, executive is not, a fun fantasy in this particular regard. I mean, help me out here, somebody, right? Again, to be fair, you guys have to realize, I like to, look into these things, and just from the common, this is the information age. You don't have to look too hard. Sit there. Information is going to pretty much come your way, and algorithms are very well trained in pretty much giving you information about things that you have some level of interest in, right? So that was no problem to be able to keep an eye on what was going on with Warner, Media at the time. And seeing some of these decisions were just so weird. And, in all fairness, I also believe that this Wonder Woman game was in the right place. I was led to believe that because of statements like that. But anybody who may have been paying very close attention probably would have been able to sense and sight that maybe there's fire on the mountain. Maybe there's trouble somewhere. Gotham Knights, I'll argue, good game. Reception, poor. Marketing, bad. A lot of people just didn't know about what they were buying. For crying out loud, you should have come out with this game and said to everybody, this is not an Arkham game. You should have brought a developer, whatever, where developers play the game, a demo, something. They use the old school marketing tactics. That doesn't work anymore. Get a demo to players, guys. Stop this. I get it. You have reviewers who you want to use maximum impact and all that stuff, but this is not the time for nonsense. This game would have really, really done well had they had their developers actually sit in front of players, talk to them about the games a lot more. But there was just this weird skittishness that happened. I guess maybe just a lack of trust because the Batman community had been waiting for a Batman game. They heard that this was going to be a game without Batman. There were just all kinds of things. That's where the developers could have been able to dig in. But who knows? Who was basically, giving the marketing budget out there? Who was putting stuff, in front of everybody? How were they deciding that they were going to go with the community management stuff? And now I've already jumped from one studio to another, by the way. I'm now on Warner Bros. Games Montreal, right? Then there was Rocksteady, with Stephen Hill coming out with the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. Oh, by the way, did anybody say something about the Suicide Squad game that had been canceled from the studio that eventually made Gotham Knights? How many games were canceled and greenlit and not greenlit, or greenlit and then canceled, that Warner Bros. Montreal was trying to get off the ground? This studio is a very talented studio, by the way. I don't know if many of you know. From a very sound mechanics perspective, Gotham Knights is one of the most sound mechanics-driven games I've ever played. And I can point out its flaws. Some of its flaws are based on its movement mechanics. Unreal Engine 4 does have some limitations, but still, there are games who've been able to come out from Unreal Engine 4. However, from what I know about this game, I have put hands on this game. Hundreds of hours. There's no one who's put hands on this game that long that would not come to the same conclusion. That's why the studio is still there. They know how to work games. They support other studios in developing games. They know how to do work, if you get what I mean. So when you think about all of this and when you put it all together, right? When you just come and say, let's just correlate what's been going on here, this studio would have been able to make small anthologies. They would not have been saddled with a AAA burden of an open world game, the burden of putting 4 characters all in one game. Yo, do y'all know what do you guys know what Warner Bros. Montreal did with this game? 4 playable characters? 4 in their first individual game. Rocksteady didn't even dare that. Rocksteady started out with Batman, then moved to Batman and some Catwoman, then moved to Batman, some Catwoman, and then everybody else. It was a buildup. These guys showed up and they dropped 4 nights. A very heavy task from a development perspective. I think whoever was greenlighting these games and whoever was making these decisions all over the place, I think they really did In my own opinion, I think they really just bit off way more than they can chew and then served it up to the studios, who basically were just overwhelmed. You take Monolith. Monolith had already developed a framework to make fantasy RPG-esque games: Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. Then you go the Wonder Woman route, which would entail them probably rebuilding systems from scratch and all of the above. Just not a good way, in my opinion, in the market as it was changing and emerging from 2017 when they launched Shadow of War, to have handled things. I think Warner Brothers Montreal should have been building the Wonder Woman game. I think they would have gotten us a product out there. Everybody swore that Monolith was going to pull it off, but Monolith is not the same Monolith that cranked out all those games about 2 decades-ish ago. It's a different Monolith. Every team has its talent and has its capacity. When I said Warner Bros. Montreal did something that's really big, a lot of people were yelling at me. They said I was a shill and all that stuff. I said, guys, well, I try to at least know what I'm talking about, and I hate being reactionary. But when I think about Origins was not their game per se. It was their take on Rocksteady's game, because they took all the files from Rocksteady. Rocksteady gave them a branch of their Arkham City game, and they went ahead and made Origins out of that. But this game, they curated from ground up, which went through different iterations and such. But again, that's a whole different conversation. All this to say, the decision-making processes so far have been really weird. Then they take Rocksteady, they give them Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, a live service game. Out of their depths, out of their own expertise, a changing market, a saturated market. Then they want to put a price point on a game that they want to be like that. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League may have thrived as a free-to-play game. Ask Marvel Rivals. But the $200 or so million in investment, how were they going to justify that for development? Over how many years? A good number of years. Because who knows, maybe they were developing another game and then they said, hey, go make a live service game. And so they had to account for all that money's already lost in terms of development somewhere, somehow. I don't know, guys. Can you blame me for playing armchair executive in this particular case? And I haven't even said much. I'm kind of tired of, the video game arm of Warner Brothers. I really am. Like I'm genuinely tired. And I've dealt with, some real challenging stuff online here, and I can tell you that this one kind of wore me out. I've never seen poor stewardship like I have coming from the folk that actually have been running things all this while. Comment section, talk to me, guys. Peace out.